One of the most important exercises you'll do when you get started in animation is the bouncing ball. And for that, you need to be able to have a rig that actually helps you accomplish this. Today, we're going to learn how to do exactly that. I'm Luciano, and welcome to the adventures of LollypopMan. In today's video, I'm going to show you step by step how to get a rig for a ball, to do a bouncing ball from scratch. I did this video a couple of years ago, and it kind of was pretty awful. I heard your comments. So I'll stop yapping. So roll the curtain or something, right? Cool. So I'm gonna try to keep track of time. This shouldn't take too long. As you can see in Blender 5, I'm just gonna start on a new scene, regular one. I'm just going to delete everything. And I'm gonna press X to delete everything. Delete selected object. Like I selected everything, you saw me. So let's start by creating a sphere. I would normally do a mesh cube that shaped like a sphere, but not in this case, just because of easiness. The other thing is, like, I'll usually go and set my snapping to grid because I feel that's way more useful. So I can move my stuff where it kind of belongs. Next, I'm going to select the sphere and shade smooth. Now that I have it there, we have the sphere sitting on the ground. And so the first thing we're going to do is going to Shift A and create a new armature single bone. You see other options that might not be on yours, but the basic one should be single bone, and that's the one that we're going to use today. Now, the 3D cursor, you can see it's in the center of the scene, so the armature gets created there, right? If you want to center your 3D cursor back to the like origin of the scene, Shift C does that, by the way. So if I click over here, right, with Shift right click and you press Shift C, it always goes back there, right? There's a new addition in Blender 5.0 which I really like, is that I think this is what Pablo's doing. There's like now little orientation markings for the 3D cursor, so you know kind of where it's pointing at, right? So Shift C, it will bring it back to the center, and as you can see, there's something popping down here, and that is our bone. So to be able to see it easily, you can press Alt Z on object mode, and that will make X-ray turn on, and so now we can see through the sphere and select the bone. So I'm just gonna hit Tab to go into edit mode, but you can see probably in your case it just went to edit mode. You didn't get pie menu. So if you like this behavior, which I totally prefer, you go into navigation settings, into the key map, and then click tab for pie menu. I think that works much better, mostly when you have rigged characters, because if you press tab on a rigged character that is linked, then it won't let you enter. It just give you an error, and you can't really do much. So you need to press Control Tab, and I think this is much better for most people. Anyways, now that we're here in this first bone, what we're going to do with this first bone is we're gonna put it all across our sphere. So I'm gonna select the top by clicking. I'm gonna press G and then hold Control. Now that our snapping is correct, it'll put it up there, right? And so we're gonna name everything as we should, right? And so I'm just gonna expand here in the outliner, and you can see that there's my first bone, right? And before we jump into doing that, we're gonna do a little bit of planning, right? Just so you know what we're doing. So I'm gonna use the drawing tools. And so first of all, what we need is a couple of separate controls. We would like to be able to rotate this sphere, and so we're gonna create like a rotate control, right? And then independently of that, we would like to be able to squash and stretch it, but we want that rotation to be able to be done within the squash and stretch. So we're gonna add a squash and stretch control. So I'm gonna do something like this, more or less, right? Great. And so that way, if I select the one on from the top, I can squash it towards the bottom. If I grab from the bottom, I can squash towards the top. Now, so since this rotation is gonna be dependent on the squash and stretch, I'm assuming this is gonna be children of those. And then we want a major controller that will be able to rotate the entire thing from its center, so I can actually rotate with the squash and stretch as well. And then from there on, we probably would like a master control to place and move the ball around from the pivot point of the bottom. But then also we would like always to have a secondary master control, which we'll call differently. We'll call this one God. And then this one, we're going to call it master, right? And then this one here, we're going to call it COG, like center of gravity. And then this one is going to be rotation, and then squash and stretch top and squash and stretch bottom. That should give us all the control we need. So yeah, easy peasy. Let's go get into it right now. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm just going to hide my notes now. Useful. So I can always refer back to them. So I'm just going to go to the end panel. By the way, this is also a thing that you need to activate if you want. Normally the end panel just turns on and off with N, but if you use the region toggle pie, then you get the header and the tools and the sidebar. And if you have like the new footer, you have that too, which I really like. It's more related properties concentrated in the one hotkey instead of like one hotkey for the tools panel and one hotkey for the other thing and one hotkey for the other thing, because it takes too much. This is just as fast almost. Anyways, as I was saying, I'm going to expand the annotations. Notice that I can expand my panels by pressing A. I'm going to expand the annotations and hide them, right? So this bone, we're going to create an extrusion from here. So we're going to select both the top and the bottom, like the head and the tail basically. And I'm going to press E, and for some reason, sometimes it doesn't work. It didn't do the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to do the bottom separately now. And with E, you extrude a bone, kind of like you would extrude geometry. So I'm just going to put it around here. Like, you know, this is one Blender unit, more or less. Let's do another one. Not you. Let's color it differently. So this is like one Blender unit. So around here should be half. Just for like consistency. There we go. Boom. So half a Blender unit. For some reason, this is not as contrasty as it should be. But anyways, also you notice that I've changed the color a little bit, so it's not plain gray. And so this bone is separate, and this other bone is parented to the other one. Now we're going to start by naming things so we can stop calling them this bone and this bone. So the top one is going to be called BB top, as in, sorry, BB, SS, as in squash and stretch. The bottom one, we're going to call him squash and stretch bottom. And the middle one, we're going to call it squash and stretch mid, right? Great, amazing. So now the top bone, we don't want it to be parented to the mid one. We're gonna press Alt P with it selected and then clear the parent. But what we want to do is have the mid one stretch to the top one. So we're gonna select the top one, select the mid one, and then go into pose mode, which you can do here, or you obviously can do here as a regular person, right? And now you can go into pose, constraint, and create a constraint like a normie. Let's go here, right? Add a constraint. But no. We're too busy for that. We're gonna press Control-Shift-C, which creates constraint with target. So the last bone you selected, the active one, is the one that will get the constraint. And the one that's secondary to it, like the first one, will not get the constraint, but will be the target. So we want, as I said, the mid one, the squash and stretch mid, to stretch towards the top. So the squash and stretch mid, it's the one that needs the constraint, stretch to, and it will stretch to the top one. So now you can see that the mid got gray, and it has now like, it's a typical thing. Now you can see my constraint panel is probably different from yours. I think I'm using one add-on that's modifying it, but doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's just like it's organized in a nicer way because you can like take the influence here, same thing, but then you can just like click them here and reorder them in a easier to see. But Otherwise, other than that, it's exactly the same panel that you have. So now you can see that when I did this, it's already assigned. And so if I move the top one, it stretches. Now the bottom one, I move it and it's free and doesn't do anything. So what I want to do is go back to edit mode, select the mid one, select the bottom one, press Ctrl P, and then keep offset. If I do connect it, it's gonna move, and I don't want that. I want it to still be free from it, but if I move the father, it will still move the son, but the son can also move on its own. So keep offset. Now I'm gonna go back into pose mode. So if I select the bottom one, then the top one stretches. If I select the top one, then the middle one stretches as well. All good. All good, right? Now let's create the rotation control now. And so the rotation control will be a child of the mid bone. So we're going to select the mid bone. I'm going to press Shift S, which will bring the snap panel or snap pie menu. Make the cursor go to selected. And so it goes into the middle, basically the middle of the sphere. We could have done the same by selecting the sphere, and yeah. And now we're going to create a new bone. Shift A. And so that bone, we're going to call it here. It's the new bone. Call it rotation. And the rotation, just for the sake of visibility, we're just going to rotate it forward like that, right? Remember, I say forward because we're looking at this from, actually, that's wrong. I'm going to look at it from the side. I'm going to rotate it forward. There you go. So now when we look at it from the front, that's it. And we are going to parent this one to the SS mid, Control P. Perfect. Same as before. We want it with keep offset. And now if I move the squash and stretch, you can see that it perfectly follows. But the cool thing is I can rotate this bone. And so if I do this and stretch and still rotate the bone from its own pivot, you can see like the rotation is kind of squished, meaning that the sphere will have the same effect. And so let's do a quick test. I'm going to select the sphere. I'm going to select the armature. I'm going to press hold tab and go into pose mode. I'm going to select the rotation bone, then Control P, and then go bone. You have lots of options here. You parent to object, but that doesn't work at all in this case because this will parent it to the armature object. So the entire object, not the individual bones. Armature deform works when you want things deforming other things. In this case, it's not really necessary because we're treating the ball as a one object that we want deformed by one bone, and then that bone gets deformed by other ones. So we don't really need weighting in this case. And so we use bone. Honestly, I never use bone relative. So I have no idea what this does. So we can move on and don't ask questions you don't want the answer. And so now you can see we got squash and stretch. And then we have, you can see the sphere rotating, and you can see it better if we go into the overlays and turn on the wireframe. So now you can see that it does that, and then great, sphere is sphering, good. So let's do our missing controllers. Shouldn't be too hard. So I'm going to go select one of the bones that has a root at the bottom. Actually, I could probably go into edit mode, select the bottom part, cursor to selected because we want the bones created there actually. So we're going to press Shift A. That new bone, we're going to call it God. Similarly, we're going to press Shift A again and create a master bone, right? And then we're going to go back to the middle. I forgot about that. I'm going to select one in the middle there. And then this one, we're going to call it COG, right? And so I actually put it in the wrong spot. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go to the front again, hold Control and bring it up to where it belongs, right? So you could make your life easier by going into the armature display and then going to viewport display and turning on names. And that way you can see the names of the bones. Easy, right? In this case, this rig is very simple, so we don't even need to focus on axis rotations and stuff like that. If you did it all the way I'm doing it, like easy, it shouldn't be a big deal. Anyways, now we need to just parent the things that need to be parented. So to make our lives easier again, I'm going to hide the rotation because we already know what to do with that one. We are going to hide the SS mid because also that's already done for. And then the cog, we're going to parent it to the master. Cog to master, that's selecting the God. You can see it over there. Cog to master. I think if I click it here, Control P, keep offset, that works. And then I did it wrong. Well, for some reason, seems like if you select it in the outliner, it opposites it. So I want to select the cog and then select the master. Yeah, the master, should be fine. Control P, keep offset. There we go. And so now the master is there. The cog is its child. And then the master should be a child of the God. Control P, master, is it? Nope. Again, is it like that? Control P. Yeah, there's something weird with the selection in the outliner. Can't quite figure it out. But the only thing that matters is that you select it in the right order. And I'm not sure you can just like drag and drop here from like in the bone structure. No, I don't think it's a thing in Blender yet. No, it's not. Anyways, we have a master. Sorry, we have a God, we have a master, and we have a cog. Great. You can see the stupid little line. I hate that one, right? That it's saying it's called a relationship line, but it's terrible because it doesn't even have like an arrow to point who's parent of who. Either way, at least now it only shows on the selected bones, which I appreciate because before it used to show whatever, whenever, with everything. So at least it now shows only when you have selected a bone that has a relationship with another bone. So you can see this one is related to those two. This one is only related to that one. This one's only related to that one. So improvement, absolutely huge improvement. So we can select them all, press Alt G, and that's gonna reset the position. And now we need to make the rest of the bones go with them. So the SS bottom and the SS top should be children of the cog. So this one, and that one. If I'm not no, it's not gonna work like that. Thank you. Okay, let's do it a different way. We can go into the cog in pose mode, which is a trick that I love. You can just go and select your bones in pose mode, select, because you can move them around and separate them and then make your selection there. Then you go into edit mode, they're back into their order, but they maintain the order of selection. Now I can press Control P and keep offset again. And now we have everything working. And if you actually go into pose mode, you'll see that things move towards where they were supposed to go. So now we have a squash and stretch. We have our squash and stretch from the bottom. We have our rotation still working. We have our cog that moves everything. And then our master that moves everything. And then our God that moves everything from the bottom. Notice that all these bones are on top of each other. If you keep clicking, just like tap, click, click, next time it'll go to the next one that it's below the mouse cursor. So you can see it over here, right? I click one, then it gets one. Then I click again, it goes to the next one. I click again, it goes to the next one. I click again, it goes to the next one. I click again, it started back again into the first one that is selected. So that's pretty cool. So now we're good. We're good to go. We're going to do some housekeeping. In the collections, we're going to go into like our armature properties, collections, and we're going to separate everything into its own collection because that's going to be easier. Probably I would have been smarter if I would have done this from the beginning, but yeah, here we are. So I'm going to put the squash and stretch, squash and stretch in the one armature, in the one collection, and then I'm gonna do rotation and I'm gonna do master, sure, no, God, that's what I want to hide. And then MCH, I'm just gonna call this MCH as mechanism because we're really, all that does is like squash and stretch. So the mid one, we're gonna move to that with M on the keyboard. If you are doing it on the armature panel and you want to assign it, it will add it to that the collection as well without removing it from another one. But if I do it in the viewport and press MCH, then it moved that bone out of the current collection and into that collection that is now in, right? Rotation M. So for instance, I'm going to hide all of the other collections and then press rotation, select rotation. I'm going to move it to the collection rotation. COG, I'm going to move it to, I'm going to keep it here. SS top and S, I'm going to move it to the squash and stretch. The God, I'm going to move it to the God one. The master, I'm going to hide with H for now. The bottom, I'm going to move it to squash and stretch. And the COG, I'm going to keep it here. And I'm going to call this one mains. So I'm going to press Alt H to bring back the master. Now we have the master, have the cog. And yeah, we have that one and that one. Great. If I want to go squash and stretch, we have these two controllers here. If we want to do rotation, we have that one. Can you just as well use this, by the way. God, and then MCH, which we won't touch for any reasons. I wish we would have like a hold the key and like it would like just solo the one and then, but we don't. Anyways, now we can go back. I'm gonna hide the MCH because we don't need it. And we're gonna go one by one. We're gonna create our little controllers. I'm gonna create a curve mesh circle. And this is going to be the controller for the cog. So I'm gonna just rename this by pressing F2, widget, cog. Why WGT? Rigify uses this convention. I like it, easy, makes it consistent. If we all use it, even better. Now, one thing that you're gonna see is that when I go into the cog and select the bone and then go to display, viewport display, and select my custom object, it's gonna turn on a different direction. Just gonna make it bigger so you can see it. Whoopsie. There's still a problem with the tablet sometimes and the sliders. But you can see that it's rotated to the other side. Why? Because the world, the Z-axis is up, but Y-axis is back. It's like deep here in Blender. But in the bones, the Z-axis is up across the bone. So it's kind of dumb, yet I understand it. So what we're going to do is going to go back to the object, and we're going to go into edit mode in the object, and we're going to scale it up a little bit just so we see it around the thing. Maybe something like that if you use your thing, yeah. And then we're going to rotate it in 90 degrees. And then we're going to go back into object mode, press rotate it again, but now in object mode, and sort of align it so it's easy. And so now if I align it properly, actually, if I scale this one, the other one, you don't see it because it's also being scaled exactly the same. So it's more representative of what we're actually doing here. So we're gonna make it like so. I would say maybe a little bit less. Yeah, like that. Whoopsie, there we go. Cool. So now I can hide this widget and there we go. Boom, we got a controller. So I would love to show you how to do all of these controllers, but I'm going to use an add-on that is free. I'm going to install it. I'll be right back. Right. So now you have your Bone Widget add-on installed right here. I'm going to put the link in the description below so you can go and get it from Gumroad. This is, I think it's currently maintained by Wayne Dixon. It's been around for a while. It's just like very easy to create shapes because it has a pre-made shapes for rigging, which is kind of annoying to do every time, mostly if you do the same ones. And so you see, you can have under this new rigging panel that appears now, you have all of these pre-made shapes. I think you can add more, I'm not sure, but this should be at least enough to get us 90% there. So I'm going to select the master. The master is going to be this one right here. I'm gonna create it. You see, it's there. Now I can go edit widget, much easier to use like this. It's already aligned. So I just need to rotate it and then to bone. And even if it gives me an error, it still works. So there, I'm gonna make it bigger though. So edit widget again, just like make it bigger because this is the big boy, right? So I'll probably make the other one a bit smaller to bone. So yeah, it's a bit buggy right now. I'm not sure what's the reasoning, but we can hide this layer, right? And hide it there as well. So now we have two of them. Great. That moves there, that moves there. Amazing. And so we're gonna do one by one, all the bones. The top one, I'm gonna put this one here, create. I'm gonna edit the widget. I'm gonna put the 3D cursor right in the middle. Change my pivot point to 3D cursor, select everything, and then scale right back down like so. Same thing, I'm just gonna go back now to bone. Again, we get the little error, but who cares as long as it works, right? I wish I didn't have the error, honestly, it drives me nuts. But yeah, I'm gonna create another one here, edit widget. Similarly, I'm gonna select all of the bottom ones, Shift S, cursor to selected. Make sure you're pivoting in 3D cursor, R 180. You can press R and then type 180 and it'll just like rotate it like that. And then I'm just gonna make sure this is like not too big, kind of like the top bottom one. Okay, cool. Why am I speaking like Tim Cook? I don't know. Anyways, there we go, another one. And then this one, we don't need it. We're not gonna control it, so let's just hide it. Then the god, we're gonna make the god a circle. No, a square. A root create. Excellent. All skewed 90 degrees as usual. I'm just gonna make this one the big boy. Boom, right? And then I should be, I don't know, for some reason I don't understand that code, so that's okay. It's not like I understand much all the time anyways. And there's a little, did I dream about the one? This one, create, yes. So again, back to edit widget, select it. We're gonna just make it, I'm gonna scale it, but this 3D cursor is at the bottom. So if I scale it now, it's gonna scale up. But if while I'm scaling, I press Shift C, so it won't scale in Z axis, then you do that, and that's perfect. Now I don't want it to be all that big because I want it to be still inside that. So scale again, Shift C, and then, oh, there it is. That's the one I care about. Okay, cool. You see it appeared here for some reason. So match one transformations, and then it will fix it. It will bring it back where it should have been all this time. And I screwed it up, so I'm gonna scale down in Z axis anyways. I could be smarter than this, but I choose not to. Right. And then to bone, and we got a bone for the rotations. I'm gonna just go back into like the original rotations. A bone for the rotations. We're gonna do something about that one. Like so, great. That's amazing. Then that, then this. Now, as a final touch, I'm just gonna give it some colors just because, you know, it's much nicer to look at when it has a color too. Just gonna create like a basic color. And this is a ball color. Add a slot, assign it, add a new one, put the same one again, right? And then Control I, assign it, and then the second one, we're gonna click the number 2 so we duplicate the one on ball colors 2. And we have orange color and then white color. No, let's make it pink and cyan, right? Because those are cool. We just need to go to the, there we go. That's beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous ball. And are we missing anything? We need to just hide the names of the controllers again. And then we're going to name the sphere ball. Geo if you want. Blender is great at using names without weird characters. You don't need to separate stuff. You can just like use spaces and whatever. And Blender is amazing at this kind of stuff. Armature, ball armature. And then the collection is going to be called ball rig. And then these ones, the widgets, are going to go into the ball rig. We're going to turn them off so they don't appear when we link it. And the ball armature is there. And then the only thing that we're actually missing right now is the bone colors. So we're going to go to our layers, not the layers, our bone, the viewport display, and we're going to select this, the main ones, these two, and then we're going to create a color, custom color set, which is going to be yellow, like full color yellow. And then the second one is going to be like a light cyan or light blue. And then the third one is going to be just white, plain white. So, and with this little button here, we're going to copy it to the rest of the selected ones. So you can see that when it's not selected, it's yellow. When it's selected and active, it's white. And if it's a part of a selection, it's going to be light blue. So it's still telling you that it's selected. It's just not the active one. I like to do that across the bones. As you can see, all my bones kind of do that already. It's not perfect right now, but yeah. And I wish we didn't have to change it every time, but you know, that's how it is. So we're gonna do this one. We're gonna do something similar, but we're just gonna do something like purple. And then I'm gonna copy this, whoopsie, copy that to this guy. You can also hover over a color and then copy and paste without having to click anything. So I'm gonna go here, hover and paste. right? I'm gonna select a new color for this guy. So it's gonna be bright green. Also, Blender tends to have colors very dim, and I like them to pop because it's much easier to see. Everything is too low contrast here. So imagine black over dark gray and dark blue and dark, no. And then these two, top and bottom, we're just gonna make them green as well, like the other one. And so this is like that. And then actually we just like copy from this one. Would have been smarter. Would have been smarter. There we go. Bam. And we are ready to animate our bouncing ball. Editor here. So I remember I forgot one last step, is that when you finish everything, you go and lock the channels that you're not gonna use and set the rotation orders that you need. So we're gonna select these top and bottom controllers, and they only need to squash and stretch, but they don't need to rotate and they don't need to scale. So I'm gonna select them both. I'm gonna Alt click the little lock on the item for the scales, for the rotations in this case. And actually I'm gonna move this into another type of rotations, just 3. It's a little bit more easy to understand. Same in the rotations. This one, we just want to be able to rotate it any direction. But this case also, it's important to use XYZ Euler, because if you're gonna do a 180 degree and or plus rotation, the other one is not very good. So this one, you can just grab any axis and make it work. Then, so we don't want to move it around with this controller, and we don't want to scale it either with this controller. This one here, also we want XYZ Euler, and then we want to be able to move it. We want to be able to rotate it, and we probably don't want to be able to scale it. It's probably not necessary. Otherwise, you could do that. You could leave that free too. And these two also, we're going to move into Euler. And remember, if you select them both and you hold Alt while you do it, then it does it to all of the controllers at the same time. So now, if I move this up and down, that's great. Obviously, there's a limit there. You could put a limiter on those. So to do that, it's quite easy. Just go into the constraints, add a limit location constraint. And so in this case, you can see that it's 0, it's here. So we're gonna first of all change this to local space. And then we want to be able to say move in 2 units up, but only like maybe 1 unit down. And then outside, maybe say 1 unit. Yeah, that should be probably enough. And so minimum, it's going to be, we said, whoopsie, -1 in every axis, right? So that way, 1 -1, this way -1. Yeah, that should be about enough. And then in x-axis again, we want to go into 1. And then, as I said before, you can copy paste by hovering. So 1 each direction. Yeah, that kind of works. We could do 2, but yeah, up to you. So I'm just gonna control select the last one, the one that has it, copy constraint to selected bones. And so now the bottom one also gets the same constraint, and you can just do that. Now make sure they both have selected the effect transforms. Why? Because if I go here and I hit the top, you can see I can keep on moving the mouse cursor, and over here the values keep on changing. So that means that like when I select the controller, like there's kind of like an invisible controller that's actually moved much further. So that's gonna affect your curves when you're animating. But if you select effect transform, and now we update it, you can see that now I can't move it past 1 and it stays at value 1. Meaning that if I move the curves in the graph editor, like when it's at the top, it's gonna be 1, it's never gonna be more than 1, and so on, right? So that makes it a lot easier to then control things in the graph editor. So with this rig, you can start practicing your bouncing ball animations, which will come in a further video. But you can also start on your own right now, because now you have the rig to do it. Also, the final rig of the ball, if you don't really want to actually do this rig, it's on our Gumroad. And there's gonna be a link to our new store, which is like a little web page with links to all of our affiliates and also to our own products. Other than that, thank you for being here again. Remember to like and subscribe, and see me next time.